I'm Fran Tarkington. I'm with fellow entrepreneur Jesse Maddox. He's taken us through his entrepreneurial story. We have left India. He understands the foundation of trip lingo, which he really put there in India in 6 months' time. Now you're on your way back to America to go and find someone who will invest a nickel in your business, or maybe a little bit more. But you had to stop on the way back. Where did you stop?
Well, so I'd been gone for almost 2 years,
Yeah.
and I promised my parents I'd come home and see them for Christmas. And so my mom lives outside of Atlanta, and so I came home, and I'm staying with her for a couple weeks before Christmas, and still kind of finalizing a business plan, but starting to really approach some people I knew that might be willing to fund the business initially, and ended up a friend of mine in California. My plan was actually to move to San Francisco, which I was going to do in February. But in the meantime, I was in Atlanta for about 2 months, and a friend of mine in California who was from Atlanta, knew a local investor, and he set me up to go meet with him. His name is Wait King, and at this point, I had about $200 to my name, and I got this meeting with Wait, and I'm like, this is my chance right here. So I went and printed out this 50-page business plan in full color, which cost me about a third of my net worth at the time. And I go meet with Wait, and we start talking, and my expectations come out of this with a check. Well, about 2 minutes into the conversation, he's asking me, well, who else is working on it with you? And I'm like, oh, it's just me. He literally pushes the business plan aside. He's like, no, this is not for now. And I'm like, oh man, that was a lot of money right there. I wish I'd have known that in advance. I would not have printed that. But anyways, he's like, look, you got to have a team before anyone's going to give you money. And it's kind of a chicken and egg problem. It's like, I need money so I can hire a team. No, you need a team so you can get money. And in this case, it's really you need a team before you can get money, unless you get really lucky. So, that's kind of the lesson I take out of that. And I'd heard it before. And at this point, I'm kind of ready to go, wander the halls at Georgia Tech to find somebody to help me build this. Asking random people if they're programmers. And but Wade tells me they've got an event called Startup Weekend coming up at the end of the next week.
In San Francisco?
In Atlanta.
In Atlanta, okay.
And he's like, basically you can show up and you can find other people that might be interested in doing a startup. And I was like, okay, great, I'm going to try to do that. So I go home and I email the Startup Weekend people, and I'm like, hey, can I come to this event? I really want to come. They say, sorry, we're sold out. You should come again next year. And I'm like, oh, I'm not going to survive on $300 till next year. That's not gonna work. So I emailed them 4 times that week, and kind of increasingly desperate. By the last email, I'm saying, look, I will take registrations, I'll get coffee, I'll scrub the toilets, whatever it is I got to do, please let me come. And so on Wednesday of that week, that last email was on a Thursday night, but on Wednesday, I went out to have dinner with my dad, and I shamed him into getting me a smartphone because I felt like I needed a smartphone. So this is important because on Friday, it's the day of the event, they haven't responded to any of my emails. I didn't feel comfortable showing up, so all's kind of lost. So my brother is driving me to my friend's house for the weekend, and literally we're on the street that my friend lives on, and my phone beeps. And I look down, and it's an email from the Startup Weekend people. They say, look, we had somebody cancel. We had a long waiting list, but because you pestered us so much, we're going to give you the last spot. So I said, Brett, turn around. We broke about 300 different traffic laws on the way to downtown Atlanta, but we got there in time. And my goal was just to go there and meet people that could potentially help me, just to meet them. But the format of the event is anybody can show up and pitch an idea, and there's about 100 people, and you vote the ideas down to the top 10 ideas. And then you split into teams, and you have 2 days to build that idea and present it back to the group. And so I was like, well, crap, I did all this work to get down here. I've been working on this idea. I might as well pitch it. So sure enough, I go up and pitch, and about 55 people pitched ideas. They showed the voting thing on the first screen after the first round of voting, and Triplingo was #1. And I was like, oh crap, this is really going to happen. This is really happening. So, and then we would go up and pitch again, and then they voted down, and it was #1 out of the top 10 again. So I go to different corners of the room, and then everyone gets to split up and decide whose team they want to be on. So our initial COO, Ross, came over immediately. He's like, I'm in. He's like, all right, go find a room. And then, within about 5 minutes, we got 10 people around me, and we're walking out the door, and there's a guy standing by the door, and he's kind of looking and evaluating the room. I can tell he hasn't really decided what he's doing yet, but he sees me, and I know that he recognizes me. So I go up to him and I say, hey, you want to be on our team? And he says, what do you need? I didn't know what I needed because I just met these other 10 people. I didn't know what they could do, but I just made up something. The first thing that came to my head, I said, databases. And he said, all right, I'm in. Well, that was Pratik Patel, our CTO to this day, and without whom nothing, we would never have gotten anywhere near where we gotten to. And it was all from, pestering the organizers, getting a smartphone at the right time, getting down there, pitching, and then asking him, if he wants to join the team. No one else had asked him, and he's a rock star. I mean, he was like a head developer at AT&T, and that was a really, and it plays into a couple other lessons that are going to come up in just a second, which is, again, putting yourself in a position to get lucky and doing things above and beyond, hoping that 1 out of 10 does hit. Because if 1 out of 10 hits, you're doing great, and you're going to have a hit. So anyways, that weekend, we worked like crazy. I slept in that room for 2 days straight. I mean, this is my chance. I've been working on it for 6 months. Damned if I was going to leave that room until we came out of there. And sure enough, end of the thing comes up, and we won the event. We voted the top idea. So what that did is it gave us an entry to a larger event called Startup Riot, where there were like 50 real companies, and that was 2 weeks from then. And I'll get to that in just a second. But after we won, they announced that there was an AJC reporter that had written about the event 2 days before, like saying it was coming up and how it was a startup thing. So I emailed him that night. I said, hey, saw your story. Like, we just won the event. This is kind of the backstory. You want to write a follow-up? And he gets back to me the next day. He said, yeah, that sounds really interesting. We'll do a story, and we'll have a photographer come down. So then I called, at this point we still didn't have any money. So I called all the co-working spaces in Atlanta, and I had them ranked, which ones we wanted to be in. And I said, hey, if you give us 3 months free rent, I'll have the AJC reporter come take a picture at your space.
Yeah.
So that worked out. We actually, they took the picture in space. We got the free rent for 3 months. And what's interesting is about 2 weeks after that article came out, I got an email from a guy named David Mills, who works at UBS. And he just read the story and thought it was...
UBS is a bank.
Yep. And he thought it was an interesting story. He just wanted to meet for coffee. And said, sure, why not? So we go and we chat, and we had a great talk for an hour. Nothing's going to come out of it. Go back to work, whatever. Well, about 3 weeks later, he's hanging out with a friend of his who's saying, I've got a little bit of extra cash flow from my business. I'm looking for some investment opportunities. I'm interested in mobile. And David's like, hey, you heard of this Trip Lingo? And he's like, no, what is that? Well, that led to a meeting with his accountant, which led to a meeting with him. And I left that meeting with a $100,000 check, which is, it came at a critical time when we needed that to get going. And again, you can just trace back this path back to emailing the AJC reporter, having the article printed, meeting the guy for coffee, and that leading to an introduction to the guy. But who would have known?
But what you're teaching us is that you don't learn this in college. I didn't learn it in college. I didn't learn it at a seminar. I didn't learn it at some educational. You learn it from doing it, and the thing that you're dogged and determined, right?
Oh yeah.
No was they told you no.
Yeah.
And no was not an acceptable answer. You did not accept no, so you didn't make excuses, and you kept going, and you slept down there in the place for 2 nights. Somebody would say, well, let's go take a trip to Pensacola, down to the beach. You didn't do that. You were singularly focused, and that's what it takes to give yourself a chance, right?
Yeah, and I think especially early on. I mean, early on things are so fragile. The smallest, pushes in the right direction can have big outcomes. I mean, I think it's hard for somebody to work 20 hours a day, 7 days a week, for 10 years.
No.
But you can work 18 hours a day, 7 days a week for 3 or 4 months if you have to.
Yeah.
When something like, especially with this, it was just a golden opportunity for us, and it was going to happen then, or was it going to happen? And and after that second event, we won that second event with 50 companies, right? We knew we knew we were going to win that event. You can't know you're going to win something when you're competing against 49 people, but we were determined to do that.
When you say you won the event, what does that mean?
So basically, it was 50 companies. Each get 3 minutes on stage to pitch, and at the end, everyone votes on the best company, and the top company gets a bunch of prizes, and you get recognition for being the best out of these 50 companies that presented. And so one, it's not just about hard work; it's also about smart work. So we thought about, how do we win this event? We know what the structure is. All right, one problem is there's 50 companies. How's somebody going to remember us at the end of the day? So, obviously the pitch had to be good, but then we developed these like really cool infographics on pieces of paper that we fanned out and made sure everyone in the audience had this thing, so that when they got bored looking at other pitches, they could look at our thing. We're top of mind the whole time.
Yeah.
And we're asking people to vote for us. We're doing all these things that we know we have to do.
You actually ask people to vote. Isn't that a unique thing?
Yeah.
Why don't we do that more? Give me 1 minute of the 3-minute pitch that you did.
I'd say the biggest minute was the first minute, which is, you come out there, you got this whole audience say, my name is Jesse Maddox. I'm the founder and CEO of TripLingo. We make the best tool for international travelers to deal with the language, culture issues you face abroad. It's coming out really sort of powerful, excited. I mean, if you're not excited about your idea, how's anyone else going to be excited about it?
Yes.
If you're not, it's partly that. It's partly being humorous. It's partly relating to them and telling a story around it. But every pitch is different. We knew what that audience was like. It's different than a VC pitch and different than a customer pitch and all these. But it was thinking about it and really, I mean, that 3-minute pitch, I practiced it probably 50 times, and I recorded the last 20 of them, and it was exactly 3 minutes. You go 3 minutes and 1 second, you get kicked off the stage, and I nailed it. 2 minutes 59 seconds, boom, off the stage, and and I was early on. It just.
All right. Would it be fair to say people could see that you had prepared? They saw that you believed. They saw your enthusiasm. And don't we gravitate to the people that believe in something and have that charisma and have that passion?
Yeah, that was critical. I mean, even the
absolutely
weekend
critical.
before, when those, that are pitching to 100 people and people have to decide what team to work on, one reason that we were voted first is I'd done the legwork. I knew what I was talking about. I wasn't going up there and making stuff up. I had the numbers. I knew the answers to questions. I knew when to say I don't know. But I had something that people could actually believe in. It was a real plan. Now, whether I'm the right person to do it, whether it's going to actually work, different questions. But that's, those are the second questions. The first one was, is this even have a chance? And
when we come back, we're going to now take you through what's happened to TripLingo after that first $100,000 investment. What's happened? Is the company moving? Is it growing? Does it have customers? And what obstacles does Jesse have now? Or what opportunities does he have now? But I'll tell you one thing, Jesse, you're having fun, aren't you?
Oh, yeah.
We'll be right back.